book lovers, it is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today with the intimidating TBR tag. So I like to do this tag every year to kind of review books that are currently the most intimidating for me. Because who knows, maybe I have actually completed the books that I've talked about previously in an intimidating TBR tag before, or I've unhauled it, or I've DNF'd it. Regardless, I like doing this tag around the same time every year, or between a year to 18 months time frame. I like to keep it consistent, and I am here today with a bunch more intimidating books for me. I'm pretty sure I've hauled majority of these recently. Yeah, pretty much I've hauled all these books within the last year, and for one reason or another, I'm intimidated by them. And I have always appreciated the prompts of this tag because it very much sums up why I'm intimidated by some of these, or it gives me reasons and justification for why I won't get to them anytime soon, but I do eventually want to get to them. I guess without further ado, let's get straight into this year's intimidating TBR tag, and I will let you guys know what books at the moment are the most intimidating for me to read. And by the way, before I kick this off, if I'm looking in this direction, it is because the prompts are on my laptop screen, so I'm just gonna read them off from there. Prompt number 1 is a book on your TBR pile that you have not yet finished. So I attempted to start The Darkening by Sonia Mara literally within a month of receiving it from Fairy Loot, and I just did not really want to continue. It just wasn't the story that I was looking for at the time, and I had high expectations because I went into This Vicious Grace, which was the book pick of the month before The Darkening, and I ended up going into that one with no expectations whatsoever, and I was absolutely blown away by it. So I kind of had the same expectation for The Darkening, but the thing is, with Fairy Loot books, I can't hold them up to the same standard. Even though they are pretty books that are provided in the same subscription service, they're not all going to be the same. Yes, they fall under the fantasy sci-fi category, and they could either be YA or adult depending on the service that you're subscribed to, but at the end of the day, they're not going to be the same or similar. I needed to get that into my head. I was very much a new Fairy Loot subscriber at the time that I received this book and I received This Vicious Grace. I still love my Fairy Loot subscription, and I definitely very much always look forward to reading more books from the Fairy Loot picks. It's just, in this case, I wasn't really motivated to continue. I got around 10 to 15% into this book and I just decided to quit it, but eventually, when I am in the mood again, I will give it a second chance. Therefore, it is still on my TBR, but it is intimidating because I haven't picked it up since, and it has been over 6 months since then. Prompt number 2, a book you just haven't really had the time to read. I have books here, so I am just going to incorporate a series into my answer. And the series I'm referring to is the Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn. So I do want to read the series eventually. I definitely want to get ahead of the TV show just so that I can see where the siblings are headed and where their romances are gonna go, and I just want to fall in love with the love interest and just have a swoon every time. The thing is, I'm not into historical fiction, I'm not into historical romance. I want to get into historical romance eventually. I mean, I love it when Cassandra Clare does it. I just haven't really seen it done anywhere else, and I think it's because I'm just not motivated to read historical fiction or historical romance for that matter. And if I end up reading anything historical, it has to be fantasy. However, I'm hoping that I will have a change of heart in the lead up to picking up the Bridgerton series. I at least want to read books 2 to 8. I don't know if I want to read book 1 because I don't want to experience what Daphne Bridgerton did again. Apparently in the book it's worse, but I mean, we will see. Eventually I will get to these, but I just don't have the time or the energy or the motivation to yet. But these editions are so pretty and I could not pass them up because I knew that I wanted to read the series eventually. It's just, when will that be? I really don't know. Prompt number 3, a book you have not yet read because it's a sequel. I have 2 for this one. First of all, I have not yet read The Merciless Ones, which is the sequel to The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. So as I'm filming this video right now, I read The Gilded Ones 2 years ago because The Gilded Ones came out 2 years ago, and I missed the announcement for the sequel somewhere, and I had no idea that The Merciless Ones was gonna come out in the middle of 2022. When I first read The Gilded Ones, there was no sequel announcement for The Merciless Ones. I mean, there was a planned trilogy from the very beginning. However, I heard nothing about the release date for the second book at all, so for some reason I just was not anticipating it. I think every single time I checked, there just was not a release date scheduled. And then when there was a release date scheduled, I just didn't check. So I had no idea that this came out. And then by the time it was published, it ended up being twice the price I purchased the Gilded ones for, and I waited for Boxing Day to purchase it. So technically, this is a newly purchased book from me as well. I'm very much looking forward to getting to it, and I don't know whether or not I should read it anytime soon, or whether I should wait until the finale comes out, because what I do know is that because I read the Gilded ones 2 years ago, I definitely need to refresh my memory. I think I need to reread that book anyway, and I think the best way of going about this is to probably wait until we're closer to the finale, so then I can just read the series in one sweep and have a good binge, because I love myself a good binge. However, the second sequel I have to mention is actually a sequel that I don't have on my bookshelves currently, but I've put the first book on my self-destructing TBR, and I'm going to work out whether or not I'm going to put it on my TBR. But I mean, we will see. That is based on whether or not I like the first book, The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin. So I read the first book like 2.5 to 3 years ago. I don't remember when the first book came out, but what I do know is that it came out over 2 years ago, because I have been renting this apartment with Camilo for 2 years, and I received The City We Became when I was living with my parents. That is how I know it has been a long time. I literally took that book from my parents' place, moved it here. I haven't read it since, so I need to revisit it and work out whether or not I am going to read The World We Make. But The World We Make is on my radar, so I'm just bringing it out. It's a sequel, it just came out, and I'm trying to work out whether or not to read it. But what I do know is that I'm intimidated by the series because I barely remember anything about the first book, and the first book was a little bit complicated to understand when I first read it. I think that's because I know nothing about New York. And at least from what I remember, the first book is very much heavily focused on New York. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm remembering things incorrectly. That's just what I remember. But that could have been a little part of the story. It's been a while. Prompt number 4. A book you have not yet read because it's brand new. For that, I have to bring up God Killer by Hannah Kanner. This was in my January Illumicrate, but as I'm filming this, only very recently did I receive my Illumicrate special edition. So I want to get to it eventually. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but what I do know is that it's just so pretty, it's gorgeous. I haven't started it because I just received it. I have absolutely no idea what this is about. I just know that this cover is pretty and this edition is pretty. But I'm slightly intimidated because I do have some high expectations for it. Prompt number 5. A book from an author that you've read previously, but you didn't like some of their previous books. And for the answer here, I would have to say The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. Now, I have noticed with Roshani Chokshi's books and series, she will have a standalone story or a first book in a series that starts off strong. I mean, The Star Touch Queen, Once More Upon a Time, and the first book in the Gilded Wolves trilogy, they were excellent. But A Crown of Wishes, which was the companion sequel to A Star Touch Queen, and the 2 other books in the Gilded Wolves trilogy just didn't really do it for me. They weren't my favorite. And so when it comes to Roshani Chokshi's books, they are a hit or a miss, and I've noticed a pattern when it comes to that. It's usually the sequels that just don't really do it for me. I'm hoping that with The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, I am somewhat proven wrong, even though this isn't a sequel. I just really want to love this book, and I was this close to skipping my January adult fairy loot because I had heard, or I had guessed, that this was going to be the book. I was unsure of it, but I just decided, you know what, I'm going to give Roshani Chokshi another chance, and being that this is her adult debut, I might just appreciate it. We will see how we go with The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I really hope I love it, and I hope that it is a new favorite, but I'm definitely intimidated by it because I am unsure based on my experience with Roshani Chokshi's sequels. Prompt number 6 is a book that's on your TBR that you're just not in the mood to read. I just know that someone might come after me for this. It's not like I don't want to read the book whatsoever. I just want to be in the right headspace while reading it, and I want to be in the mood to read it because I hear great things about this book, and you know what? I 100% support its message. I'm just not in the mood to read it. That, my friends, is Babel, An Arcane History by R.F. Kuang. R.F. Kuang is the author of the Poppy War trilogy, a trilogy I actually really loved and I appreciated when I read it. And I hear nothing but great things about Babel. Actually, no, that's a lie. I hear that Babel is good, it's great, but you know, there are some reviewers that say that it's slow and it's boring. I mean, I get that because it looks hefty, huge, and thick, and I just want to be in the right headspace to read a book that is this thick. And it takes place in an alternative historical setting from what I know. Those are the vibes I'm getting. Once again, because I'm getting those historical fiction vibes, I'm not motivated to pick it up. But I want to eventually honestly, I just really need to be in the right headspace to do so. Right now, I'm just craving some guilty pleasures, and Babel just needs to be saved for a time where I am wanting to take my reading seriously. I mean, I do take my reading seriously. It's just sometimes I just want a good time, and sometimes I really want a thought-provoking read. When I'm in the mood to have a good thought-provoking read that I can just simmer in, that I could take time to appreciate, Babel will be my read. I plan to read Babel, but I plan to read Babel at the appropriate time because it deserves my time and attention. I need to be able to appreciate this book because I don't want to be one of those reviewers who doesn't appreciate it for what it is. Prompt number 7, a book that is on your TBR that you have not yet read because it's enormous. Now this was a surprise. Order of Scorpions by Ivy Asher. This is not only a thick, chunky book, it's also a standalone. And the thing about fantasy standalones is that I don't usually read them. I mean, when I do, it's a rare occurrence that could either be a hit or a miss for me. And I reckon that Order of Scorpions could be a hit considering how thick it is, and I reckon that it might just be a very well-developed story, but the book is almost 800 pages. I think it is like around 800 pages. It is a chunker. Such a chunker that when this special edition arrived to some people's places, apparently Fabled had to send out warnings to those who were trying to unpackage their books just to make sure that they removed the packaging with care and that it was laid down on a surface before unpackaging it because it's heavy, it's thick. I could literally use this as a weapon because it's that thick. I am looking forward to reading it eventually. I want to read books by Ivy Asher because Ivy Asher is also coming to Rare 2023, so I do want to get to this. I don't know when, but it will happen sometime eventually. Also, I have to show you guys, this is so pretty. Not just this, but this is gorgeous. We will see how I go with Order of Scorpions. I hope I love it, and I hope that it's not one of those intimidating fantasy standalones, and that it is very well developed based on how thick it is. I also hope the pacing is good. Prompt number 8, a book that is on your TBR you purchased because of its cover. I didn't specifically purchase this. I asked Camilo to purchase it for my Christmas gift. I put it on my wish list, and I just really wanted these books because of their covers. The first book in the series being Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. Look at how beautiful this cover is. As soon as I saw this cover, I immediately knew that it had to go on my TBR and I had to read it. But when am I gonna read it? That is a question I cannot answer with certainty. Because I really do want to read the series, I just know though that I'm going to need the emotional bandwidth, considering how thick this series is, but also considering that Carissa Broadbent has become a new favorite author of so many people. I just know that this series is just gonna get to me. You know, I'm gonna feel really emotionally attached to the series. I don't know why I feel these vibes, but considering that my friend just read Carissa Broadbent's most recent work and feels that way about her most recent book, I just know that I'm gonna feel it with any book I read from her. I don't know, that's just my automatic assumption at the moment. I've put this book on my 5-star predictions TBR, or I've put this series on that TBR because I honestly can't tell from the first book whether or not it will be a 5-star read, but we will see. I have really high expectations for the series. I put the series on my wish list for its cover. Camilo purchased it for me, and then after I received it as a Christmas gift, my friend could not stop raving to me about Carissa Broadbent's most recent novel, and so yeah, I have higher expectations for it than I did before. So I'm intimidated by it, not just because of its beautiful cover and that being the only reason why I purchased it, but because I have high expectations for Carissa Broadbent's storytelling and writing in general. And finally, prompt number 9, the book on your TBR that you find the most intimidating. And I have to say, once again, it's a series, and I find it the most intimidating because I have been predicting that this series is going to be a new favorite series of mine. I have had this series on my shelf for over 6 months now. I've put it on multiple TBRs, and I know a lot of you guys are sick of me talking about this book series as if like I've just put it on my TBR a billion times and never actually talked about how good it is because I've not yet read it. Yeah, I am highly intimidated by the Savage Land series by Stacey Marie Brown. And I am definitely the most intimidated by the Savage Land series because I've had this series on my wish list for years. I remember when people were raving about this series alongside the Bargainer trilogy, alongside some other fantasy series I had already read, but I had not yet gotten to Savage Lands. It was at that time that Savage Lands was on the rise. I remember that Savage Lands only had 2 books to it and the 3rd book was coming out, and that's when I put it on my wish list, and I waited for all these books to come out in hardback for me to purchase them so that I could read them in the lead up to the Arcane Society editions coming out. But guys, it doesn't end there. I have the first 2 Arcane Society special editions in the Savage Land series. Look at that. That is so pretty. Let me just take a second to show you underneath. This is so beautiful. I love the aesthetics of this, and they did an excellent job with these editions, and I'm so looking forward to getting my add-on box. But have I read it? No, I have not. I have been intimidated by it, and I don't know why I've justified purchasing a second set when I'm just not bringing myself to read the series. I really do need to read it eventually, and the reason why I want to read it is because I think it's going to be a new favorite, but that is also the reason why I'm intimidated by it. So I've just decided for now it's not going to go on another monthly TBR. I am just going to pick it up when I am ready to pick it up, but at the moment I am the most intimidated by it because I have a feeling it's going to be one of my new favorite series of all time, and I just hope that it's that good. I really hope that it's that good, because if it's not, I will be devastated. So I guess that's going to be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the red heart emoji, and if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social medias. I'm at GSwizzleBooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/GSwizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at GSwizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it in a double. Started out with half and I flipped it in a double.